This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day, February 7th, in the year 2010, we had a Super Bowl. And the latest date that a Super Bowl had been on was established February 7th. Unfortunately, now that record's been broken by Super Bowl 56 being a week late on February 13th instead of yesterday, which would have been nice to see. Anyway, the game was held in Miami for the 10th time and for the 5th time at Hard Rock Stadium. Well, it was Sun Life Stadium, now it's Hard Rock Stadium, but it made a massive redo. Anyway, the Saints and the Colts were in the game, and it was a doozy. Both of them were the 1 seed in their conferences, and of course, you can tell by the picture that the New Orleans Saints won. Anyway, this was the first time the Saints got to the Super Bowl, and the 4th time the Colts did. The 2nd time in 4 years. Ironically, the last time the Colts went to the Super Bowl was 2007 in Miami. So it's 13-3 versus 14-2. 27 wins. That was pretty good and all that. In fact, this was the first time since 1994? Yeah, the first time since 1994 that both number 1 seeds had been to the advanced to the Super Bowl. Can you believe it? It took that much. Anyway, the Colts and Saints had some momentum going for them. All that. It was actually the most watched Super Bowl at the time. The national anthem was sung by Carrie Underwood. So anyway, there were rumors New York was going to host it, but Miami became it. They did the Pro Bowl, of course. Anyway, New Orleans were 13-3. They got to their first Super Bowl in franchise history. Now, New Orleans was a cursed franchise. After joining the NFL in 1967, it took them 21 years to get their first winning season, or above 500, if you will. So they weren't above 500 until 1988. And then they had to win their first. And their first playoff win was in the year 2000 against the defending Super Bowl champion Rams. New Orleans had a gigantic setback because of the storm called Hurricane Katrina, which devastated Louisiana Superdome, and the Superdome had to house some displaced residents, and they didn't take it kindly. New Orleans would have to play their home games at Baton Rouge, even one at Giant Stadium, and San Antonio. They were 3-13. Obviously, they just stunk. But the offseason happened. The stadium was refurbished and looked ready to go. They got Drew Brees, who almost went to Miami, but they didn't think his injury was going to help him. So Drew Brees left San Diego for New Orleans, and he put up passing yards like there was no tomorrow. They also drafted Reggie Bush, Marcus Colston, and guard Johanny Evans. New Orleans got to 10-6 and got to the NFC title game before losing to the Bears. They signed new talent, and they were making a run to the Super Bowl for the 2009-10 season. The Saints had the best offense, scoring 32 points a game. Drew Brees was the top-rated quarterback, hitting 70% of his passes, which was an NFL record at the time, and 4,300-plus yards with 34 touchdowns. Marcus Colston caught over 1,000 yards, receiving 9 touchdowns. And Devery Henderson, Robert Meacham, Jeremy Shockey, all good players. Pierre Thomas and Mike Bell were running backs. Good running backs. So they had a good, strong offensive line. The defensive lineman, had 13 sacks. Jonathan Vilma, good linebacker. Darren Sharper caught 9 interceptions and got 3 pick sixes, or ran the back for touchdowns, if you will. And Tracy Porter was also effective. The Saints actually started out 13-0, but then they lost the last 3 games. They lost to Dallas, they lost to Tampa, and then with their playoff seat clinched, they did lose to Carolina, but basically they played the backups. However, they did do well in the playoffs. Indy, on the other hand, 14-2. They won 7 games by under 7 points, which was great. Peyton Manning, 4,500 yards, 33 touchdowns, and got the MVP award. Jeff Saturday led a great offensive line. Dallas Clark and Reggie Wayne were the receivers that looked good and all that. Joseph Adai was a decent running back. Robert Mathis and Dwayne Ferretti, great defensive ends. And Anton Bethia was a good safety. Under their new coach, the Colts actually started at 14-0, but lost to the Jets. But Caldwell made the controversial decision to rest his starters after his team took the lead. And he lost to Buffalo, too, but they rested their starters. Anyway, Caldwell led the Colts to the Super Bowl the season after Tony Dungy decided to retire. In the playoffs, New Orleans crushed Arizona 45-14. A great first half. And then they faced the Minnesota Vikings for the NFC title. And Brett Favre was for the Vikings, and who knew that he was going to lead them to the NFC title game? The Vikings looked like they were going to go for the field goal to win the game, but Brett Favre stupidly decided to throw a pass instead of running for a few yards. He would have gotten probably to the 28, 29 yards line. That would have set up a decent field goal attempt, but no, he decided to pass the ball. It was picked up, and then the Saints went in overtime. Indy, on the other hand, had to take on Baltimore, the team that took out my New England Patriots. Like that. Thankfully, though, the Colts gave me some sense of relief, taking care of the Ravens 20-3. The funny thing was that Matt Stover was the Colts kicker because he used to always be the Ravens kicker back in the day. Anyway, the AFC title game, they took on the Jets. The Jets actually had the 17-6 lead and choked it as the Colts won that game. This was the first time since Super Bowl 39, back 4 years earlier, that both teams had a first-round bye and both teams made the Super Bowl. Anyway, CBS would broadcast the game here. With the great Jim Nantz and Phil Simms doing the broadcasting. Of course, 106 million viewers. It's the third most watched Super Bowl behind Super Bowl 45 and Super Bowl 46. In fact, this Super Bowl in 2010 broke the record that was set in American TV history of the final episode of MASH that had 105 million viewers. So this was huge. So anyway, there was a controversy because of focus on the family. Tim Tebow and his mother getting a space and all that. So anyway, the game was huge and all that. Anyway, so the first quarter started, and the Colts got off to the lead with a Matt Stover field goal. And then Pierre Garçon got a touchdown catch from Peyton Manning. 10-0 Colts. Looks good. But then the Saints got a pair of field goals to make it 10-6 by halftime. So the Colts looked good. And I was like, yes, boy, yes. Come on, Peyton. And then halftime came, and then came the third quarter when the Saints decided to do something weird. Sean Payton called for a surprise onside kick. And, surprise, motherfucker, he got it. And the Saints drove down the field in that subsequent drive and breezed past Pierre Thomas, touchdown. However, the Colts got some normalcy with a touchdown run by Joseph Adai, making it 17-13. And then the Saints made it 17-16 on a field goal by Hartley. So the fourth quarter happened with about 6 minutes left, and the Colts were hanging on to that 1-point lead until Drew Brees passed to Jeremy Shockey in the end zone. And then they went for 2 points and got it 24-17. Peyton still had a chance to tie the game, but then he threw a terrible pass and Tracy Porter took it 74 yards. 31-17 Saints, that was your final score. The Saints win the Super Bowl and gave the city of New Orleans some credence. And of course, back home in Kitchener, I went, fuck! Sorry, but that's the way it is. Anyway, Drew Brees was named MVP. Who else would have been? But anyway, Brees said, 4 years ago, whoever thought this would be happening when 85% of the city was underwater? Most people left not knowing if New Orleans would ever come back, or if the organization would ever come back. We looked at one another and said, we're going to rebuild together. We're going to lean on each other. True. That is very true. Lots of Super Bowl records and all of that. New Orleans had the first successful onside kick in the attempt in a Super Bowl outside of the fourth quarter. Matt Stover was the oldest player to participate, as he was 42 years, 11 days of age. Garrett Hartley was the first kicker to win 3 field goals of 40 or more yards. New Orleans' victory meant that a team wearing a white jersey won for the 6th straight Super Bowl. Drew Brees had the 2nd highest completion percentage in Super Bowl history behind Phil Simms in Super Bowl 21. But he does have the most completions in Super Bowl 33. Anyway, New Orleans became the 3rd team ever to win the Super Bowl after trailing at halftime and not scoring a first half touchdown. The Giants in Super Bowl 42, yuck, and the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl 28, that would be 1994, were the other 2 teams to do so. The Patriots in Super Bowl 51 would join them. Of course they would. The Saints became the 7th team to win the Super Bowl after trailing to begin the fourth quarter. The Giants in Super Bowl 42, Saints and Niners, in Super Bowl 23, the Redskins in Super Bowl 17, the Steelers in Super Bowl 10 and 14, and the Colts in Super Bowl 5 were the other ones. The Saints tied the record for biggest comeback win in Super Bowl history. They were down by 10 points and came back to win. Unfortunately, the Patriots would smash that record against the Falcons in Super Bowl 51 with a 25-point deficit. And the Saints became the 9th team to win the Super Bowl in their first attempt. I don't think they're the last. If memory serves me right, I think so. I think they're the last team. I think they are the last team to do that. New Orleans had a dynasty and all that. Unfortunately, though, there was a problem. In 2012, Bountygate happened because Saints assistants would pay for money to knock people out of the games and all that. There was a massive investigation and all that. New Orleans would bounce back in a sense. They should have went to the Super Bowl in 2019, but they lost to the Rams in controversial fashion because of that pass interference call that wasn't made. Drew Brees retired after 20 years after that. The Colts would not make the Super Bowl afterwards and all that. The Colts have had some problems and all that. Just winning playoff games. And the Saints were the last team to win a championship game of any North American sports league or series, game/series of a sports league in North America on their first attempt until the Raptors, yes, those Toronto Raptors in 2019, first trip to the final, first title. Just as simple as that. So, yeah, I brought New Orleans some credence. Can't beat that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.